With Amex Platinum, you get priority notified with global dining access by Resy, so you can get first dibs if a spot opens up at restaurants. And compliments to the chef turns into compliments to your Platinum card. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex.
Welcome to What She Said, the heartbeat of Canadian women's voices, with me, your host, Candace Sampson. Here, we dive deep into the raw, unfiltered stories and triumphs of women from coast to coast. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement where empowerment and education collide and where mansplaining is shown the door. We're here to celebrate, uplift, and echo you. So get cozy, tune in, and let's embark on this journey together, exploring the rich tapestry of women's lives, their battles, and victories, right here on What She Said. This week's show shines a spotlight on Vancouver, a city pulsating with vibrant culture and sustainability, and is narrated through the voices of extraordinary women. Thanks to an invitation from the Fairmont Waterfront, I had the chance to immerse myself in the city's dynamic energy during a 3-day whirlwind tour. The experiences were so impactful that upon reflecting at home, I felt compelled to bring these stories to you directly. The women you'll meet today are not only inspiring, but also driven by a passion for their work. Some have surmounted significant hurdles to achieve success, while others dedicate themselves daily to forging a better world. The common thread among them all is their commitment to fostering a sustainable future. In today's show, you'll hear from women who are leading the way in environmental initiatives, cultural storytelling, and community building, all integral aspects that make Vancouver a uniquely compelling place. Here's what's coming up. Kristyna Vogel from the Fairmont Waterfront discusses how the hotel not only offers luxury accommodation, but actively participates in local sustainability efforts that embody the spirit of Vancouver. Candace Campo, co-founder of Talasay Tours, shares her experiences in bringing Indigenous stories to life, offering deeper insights into the cultural heritage of the land. Sara Unrau from Wayward Distillery talks about their eco-friendly approach to crafting spirits and their role in supporting local agriculture and bee populations. Julia Common from Bees Actually elaborates on her lifelong advocacy for bees, explaining her partnership with Fairmont Waterfront and the crucial role bees play in our ecosystems. Finally, Inez Cook, owner of Salmon and Bannock, shares her journey from the 60s scoop to becoming a restaurateur who celebrates and preserves Indigenous cuisine and culture. So join me to explore these enriching conversations that highlight the innovative and resilient spirit of Vancouver through the lens of its phenomenal women leaders. Vancouver is known for its stunning landscapes, vibrant culture, and commitment to sustainability, and few places capture that spirit quite like the Fairmont Waterfront. From community partnerships that support local businesses and bees to their unique green roof garden, this hotel isn't just a place to stay, it's part of what makes Vancouver so special. Joining me today is Kristyna Vogel, Director of Marketing and Public Relations at Fairmont Waterfront in Vancouver, to share what makes this city a must-see destination, the importance of community partnerships, and some of the unique features that set the Fairmont Waterfront apart. Kristyna, welcome to What She Said.
Hi, Candace. It's so nice to see you again. Thank you for having me.
It's nice to see you again. I'm actually kind of missing Vancouver and the vibe there. So Vancouver is known, obviously, around the world for its breathtaking natural beauty and vibrant city life. But from your perspective, what makes Vancouver such a special place to visit? And what are some of the top things to see and do for people coming to the city for the first time?
I think that's such a great question because we don't really have those iconic places, the towers, the buildings that people want to go to because Vancouver is a lifestyle city. And to really find what's special about it, you just have to get out there. So I'm sure you noticed when you were here, everybody is outside in Vancouver all the time. You can hike, you can bike, you can ski, you can sail, you can paddleboard, and all of that with like 10 minutes from like the downtown core. So it's really about getting outside. If you're not a sporty person, there's like some great cultural things to do that I would recommend, like Granville Island. So much fun to visit the market, to see the buskers. if you go, definitely have a lobster roll from the Lobster Man. That's a personal recommendation.
I did that.
And they're delicious.
And I got a donut from Lee's Donuts. So just putting that out there.
You hit both check marks there. And the thing that I would probably recommend the most is get outside of downtown, because that's where the true Vancouver is. There are so many cool neighborhoods. There's Kitsilano and all those amazing beaches and views. There's Commercial Drive if you're looking for that funky area. There's South Main if you're looking to hang out with the hipsters. There's around Main Street, there are over 400 building murals, because there's a mural festival every year, and they're just absolutely incredible. And then I would say probably for me, the thing that you would get the most value out of is exploring Indigenous culture. There's just so much around here. We are on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. And Talasay Tours is a great way to see Stanley Park. There's the Bill Reid Art Gallery. There's the Museum of Anthropology. There's Salmon and Bannock to have some authentic food. Yeah, there's just so much to explore in the city.
And if I may, I'll just add in one more. You're not tooting your own horn enough here, but Fairmont Waterfront has bikes available for guests. And I took one out and rode around. It's part of the Trans-Canada Trail, but the Seawall Trail. And what a great way to see both sides of the city, that natural side on one side, of course, the ocean and all of the beauty there. And then the view of the glass city as well from the other side, just spectacular. So I highly recommend people do that.
Yeah, and it's very approachable. It's very flat. It's protected. The seawall goes all the way around the city, so you can get to most neighborhoods directly from the seawall on a bike. Thanks, Candace, because that's a great suggestion.
And I just want to add in as well that, Fairmont Waterfront has built some really fantastic partnerships with local businesses. And I think this is so important. So Wayward Distillery and Bees actually are two that I had the opportunity to connect with when there. So why are these community partnerships so important to you, and how do they reflect the values of the hotel?
That's a great question. I would say that we share those core values, and that's what we're initially drawn to, because sustainability is really important to us here at Fairmont Waterfront. And we truly believe that strong communities are part of sustainability. And so we're really committed to doing our part. I mean, when you're surrounded by mountains and forest and ocean, you just really understand how important it is to protect this planet. And so we do like to align with partners who also feel that way. So Talasay, I think, is just, for us, it's a no-brainer because it's a win-win-win. It's a win for Talasay, which is a small female-owned Indigenous business, because they don't necessarily have the access to the thousands and thousands of guests that we do each summer. We have lots of guests who are interested in those kind of experiences, but it's sometimes hard to find them. You may not know what to search for. And so that's where a hotel concierge can be super, super helpful. And then sort of Bees. I mean, we definitely love Bees at this hotel, as you know. And Julia, she just came to us. And at the time, she was the co-founder of Highs for Humanity. And they were actually using Bees on Vancouver's downtown east side to sort of build community and self-esteem for marginalized people. And that just really resonated with us. It's people, it's community, but it's also protecting those important pollinators. So yeah, we're always looking for those opportunities to support small businesses, but also to show the authentic Vancouver to people coming here.
I'd like to talk for a minute, if we could, about your rooftop garden, because it is really spectacular. It is one of the most unique experiences I've actually had at a hotel. Can you tell me about the garden and how it sort of pulls together all of these aspects of sustainability and entertainment, obviously, and education?
You know what? Our garden is also, it's 2,400 square feet on our third floor rooftop. It was built in 1995, which is pretty much the very first green roof in the city. I think it is, like you said, it's a surprise, because I think a lot of time people think of rooftop gardens as sort of planted boxes where this is like a soil garden with trees and everything. And it's such an oasis in the middle of the city, which I think is like that thing that is very surprising for those moments of mindfulness. But it also houses our honeybees for the hotel. And it also has what we call our potager, where we grow some vegetables and herbs and fruit that are used in the restaurant. Now, obviously, we can't grow enough produce on our roof to support all of the produce in the restaurant, but our executive chef thinks it's a really great opportunity to mentor his proteges and be working in that garden, because he truly believes, and I truly believe, that if you spend time working in a garden and you realize just how much work goes into growing a tomato, that our hope is that those chefs think twice about food waste and try to find creative ways of using that, because reducing food waste is very important to us here at the hotel as well.
That experience was so great for that. I mean, and I highly recommend people, if they join you at the hotel, to go spend some time on the rooftop with the bees, and obviously eat at the restaurant, where you pull in components from this garden, from your bees, into the menu. It really is this full circle experience. And just speaking about experience, can we talk about Fairmont Gold for just a minute? Because wow, that was really special, Kristyna. So, and I'd like guests to know what it means to stay in Fairmont Gold.
Oh, Fairmont Gold, I think, is one of our sort of a hidden gem in the city. It's sort of 2 exclusive floors in the hotel. It's called our hotel within the hotel. And you get a private concierge and check-in. There's a private lounge. There's complimentary breakfast every morning. There's snacks in the afternoon. There's evening canapes, which are, I think canapes is sort of a light term. There's quite a spread put out there for our guests. And the use of the private terrace, I think, has maybe the best view in the city from that terrace. So a glass of wine and a sunset and watching the cruise ships go under the bridge is pretty hard to beat when you're in Vancouver, for sure.
Absolutely. Are there any exciting new initiatives or projects in the works at the Fairmont Waterfront that visitors can look forward to?
I think like one of the things we've really been exploring is mindfulness and like overall wellness. So over the summer, we had yoga by the poolside every morning, which was complimentary for guests. And now that it's sort of heading into the fall and winter, we have started a pretty cool adventure of doing sound bathing, which is we have a yoga instructor come in. It's complimentary for our guests. You lay on the floor, you meditate, and they have these beautiful resonating sounds that just help you center yourself. And if you're not so calm, we're going to do polar bear plunge brunches this year. So you come to the hotel, we take you down to English Bay, you jump in the water, you come out, we've got warm toasty towels for you, and then you get to reward yourself with bottomless brunch.
That sounds actually perfect. Barring, of course, the jumping in the cold water, which I don't know if I would be able to do it. Anyway, you're doing an amazing job at the Fairmont Waterfront. Really, you do stand apart from other properties that I've stayed at. So thank you so much for having me out, Kristyna. I really do encourage people to check you out when they're in the Vancouver area. And if they want to find out more, where can they do that?
You can do it on our website, which is www.fairmont-waterfront.com, or we love to see people engaging with us on social media. So we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, and we're on Facebook, and it's at Fairmont Waterfront.
All right. Amazing. Kristyna, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Candace.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Life is full of things to manage. Your work, your family, your plans, and your treatment. Consider Kesimpta, ofatumumab 20 milligram injection. You can take it yourself from the comfort of home. If you're ready for something different, ask your healthcare provider about Kesimpta and check out the details at kesimpta.com Brought to you by Novartis Pharmaceuticals Corporation.
Supporting Indigenous businesses not only enriches our communities, but also gives us a deeper understanding of the land we live on and the cultures that have called it home for generations. My next guest, Candace Campo, is the co-founder of Talasay Tours, a company that brings Indigenous stories, history, and culture to life through their guided tours. Candace joins me today to share more about her journey, the importance of supporting Indigenous businesses, and what you can expect from a Talasay tour. Welcome to What She Said, Candace.
Hi, good morning, Candace.
It's so great to have another Candace on the show. I think we should just run with this and have the Candace and Candace show.
It sure is.
So let's start with Talasay Tours, because you've been operating for over 2 decades now. Can you tell us a little bit about how the business started and what inspired you to create these cultural experiences?
For sure. It started in 2002. I was a administrator, actually, to be honest, 2000, and I was hired by another company to be a cultural guide. And being an educational administrator, I wanted the opportunity to get out of the office. So I worked for them on weekends, and it was such a positive experience that I started my own company. And I share that it's co-founded with my husband, Larry, because while I was building the business, he made sure the children were fed, clothed, with a roof over our head. It's been a labor of love, but it truly is a family business.
And what do you think sets Indigenous businesses apart from others, especially in terms of the values and perspectives they bring to the table, particularly with tours like yours?
I think there's many aspects that make Indigenous tours and experiences unique because we have lived here for thousands of years and we have that strong relationship connection on both physical, spiritual, and to be able to share that story is incredibly special. And it's really well received by our guests. And truth be told, we come from a long tradition, a strong tradition of storytelling. And I've been a storyteller. I was raised by a storyteller who was also an administrator. So I love the juxtaposition. My father. But I could honestly say in our community, the storytelling is so rich. I don't even consider myself the strongest storyteller. There's just so many amazing cultural ambassadors within our community that are even doing other jobs and are not in tourism.
Well, I was lucky enough to join in on one of your Talking Trees tours, which is one of the most popular experiences you offer. So can you share more about what visitors can expect from this tour in particular and how it connects people to the land and Indigenous culture?
Yes, Talking Trees is how our people utilize the land for food, medicine, and technology. And people are always awestruck to recognize how many plants and trees Indigenous people have utilized on the Northwest Coast here to live, to create a society of wellness and health. And our Talking Trees really delves deep into those teachings, and we bridge it with ecological stewardship. We bridge it with Western science, and we meet people halfway, also incorporating scientific vocabulary to help people understand. And I find it's very effective. It is a very popular tour, but I have to give credit to Stanley Park. Beaver Lake is phenomenally beautiful.
It really was a stunning experience. Just the setting and then all of the educational components that came into it was amazing. But you also offer a range of other tours from cultural canoeing to forest walk. So how do you decide what stories and experiences to share with your guests?
Yes, we can offer a program like Talking Trees, which focuses on nature, spoken treasures on history, talking totems on culture and society and art. And so we really try to give a broad perspective, but our relationship really is with the water. And therefore, we also offer canoe tours, kayak tours, stand-up paddleboarding tours, and for us to work with young Indigenous people. They provide such a great service on a daily basis doing walking tours, but it is the multi-day kayak tours that give them that experience to be on our homelands. And as a company, we really prioritize that so that also our team has a full outdoor living experience and cultural rediscovery.
So, what advice would you give to someone who's looking to learn more about Indigenous culture but isn't sure where to start?
I think that's a really good question. And there is such a complex and at times difficult history, Canadian history, in relation to Indigenous peoples. And we really encourage people to access the local tour companies, ourselves, Talasay Tours, Takaya Tours, Salmon and Bannock, because we are a friendly entrance into Indigenous culture and history and building a relationship and a friendship. And then people could go further into what is referred to as decolonizing and deconstructing our history. And there are other service providers within our local communities that even delve deeper into that history, so people can come away with a deeper, more meaningful understanding of history here in British Columbia and Canada.
What's next for Talasay Tours? Are there any new tours or projects on the horizon that we should be looking forward to?
There are, to be honest. Talasay Tours has many guides that are what we refer to in our culture as two-spirit, gender fluid. And we are opening up a division. We are calling it Sachi Adventures. And Sachi Adventures is rainbow adventures. So this summer, we've been doing many walking tours, hikes, and paddles with the LGBTQ community. Members, friends, and allies, and we're pretty excited about that. And that is one of our new initiatives. And the other initiative is to work with Soulfly Experience, who are teaching our guides to provide safe, accessible tours to people who require additional accessibility needs, whether they have physical considerations, neurological, hearing considerations. So
Incredible.
that's pretty important to us.
Well, Candace, I was totally impressed with the tour that I took. I would happily jump on another one should I return to Vancouver, but I want people to be able to connect with you when they go. So what's the best place for them to book a tour and to keep up with all that you're doing?
Yeah, you can join us on talasay.com, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We'd be happy to hear from you.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today, Candace.
Thank you, Candace. All the best.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. With over 122 million parts, you can make sure your number one ride or die stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.
Ah yes, the magnificent Trolley Sour Bright Crawler, also known as Trollicus brightolus. The worm's captivating neon colour makes it an easy gummy prey.
Trolley!
It's a surprisingly sour, invitingly chewy, staggeringly snackable species unlike anything else found on this planet.
Eat me!
Delicious. Visit Trolley.com to shop now.
Trolley, eat me!
Running an independent craft distillery takes a lot of dedication, passion, and in the case of my next guest, a strong commitment to sustainability and bees. Wayward Distillery, located in the Comics Valley on Vancouver Island, is not only known for its award-winning spirits, but also for its unique approach to distilling, fermenting honey into spirits and supporting local agriculture in the process. Joining me today is Sara Unrau from Wayward Distillery to talk about what it's like to run a craft distillery, their commitment to bees, and the exciting things happening at Wayward. Sara, welcome to What She Said.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I am thrilled to have you here. I had the opportunity to try some of your gin on a recent trip to Vancouver, and I am a devotee now. I never liked gin, and I've got to tell you, I absolutely loved your gin. So, way to go!
Awesome.
You turned me into a
I love a
convert.
convert story. That's great.
Yeah. So this is the first distillery in Canada to ferment and distill honey into spirits. So, and you're also committed, obviously, to supporting bee populations.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about why bees are so important to your mission and how you're working to protect them?
Well, yeah, absolutely. They're adorable, first of all. There's still a lot of confusion, I think, out there whenever anyone's like, oh, I don't like bees, and they'll like point at a wasp. There's a big difference. And it's not just bees that we want to try and promote and protect. It's all pollinators. Unfortunately, wasps are part of that, but they're jerks, so we'll ignore them. But like hummingbirds and bats and butterflies, pollinators are essential to our food sources. Without the pollinators, we do not have our food. So that's why they're so important.
And sustainability is clearly a big part of your philosophy. I mean, just poking around on your website, that comes through loud and clear. So how does supporting local agriculture factor into your operations? And why is this so vital to your business model?
Local agriculture, I mean, it promotes community togetherness, that kind of thing. But it also, if you know exactly where your food is coming from, where your products are coming from, you have a much better connection to, your whole food chain, right? Sustainability to practices that are, like a single origin farm producer for a grain. If you know everything comes from there, it's not sprayed with anything, harsh chemicals and that kind of thing. Doesn't that make you feel better immediately about what you're consuming and what you're putting into your body? Also, the environmental concerns are a huge, huge part of it. Reducing your water waste and that kind of thing for sustainable practices, like so important to ensure that our little friends, the pollinators, survive. Because if we're, not being careful with our environment and where we live, what are we doing?
And I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. You have an apiary right where you distill, right?
We have two hives that we use, of course, for educational purposes. It's a lot more fun when you can take people out to a hive, have them stand, a foot away from the bees and just hang out. And it immediately people are like, oh, like they're not attacking us. They're not buzzing around us. They have much bigger concerns than people hanging out. And it just kind of goes to show like, is this misunderstanding of like being stung and that kind of thing. But we use it for educational purposes, but then we can, after they calm down, they're like, oh, hey, we're not getting attacked. We can go into why pollinators are important, what they're doing, buzzing in and out of that hive all day, collecting pollen, pollinating other plants, why it's so important that this food system continues. And we have two hives rather. Our apiary that we partner with, Golden Clover, they're actually up like northern BC, just because no one apiary could provide us with the amount of honey we needed initially when we opened our doors. So we needed to find one with hundreds of hives. That's the kind of honey need we have for making our spirits.
And the craft distilling industry is incredibly competitive, I imagine. So with so many distilleries popping up, what are some of the biggest challenges you face in such a big market? And what do you do that makes you stand out?
It is competitive in that, like you said, there are so many out there. But honestly, most of the people who are part of the craft distilling guild and community appreciate that because what it does is it allows an individual to really pinpoint a spirit that they like. The more that's out there, the more you can explore, the more you can enjoy, the more you can create with your cocktails and your mixology. So it is competitive, but I wouldn't necessarily say in a negative way. And I wouldn't necessarily say that we are negatively impacted by that. We did start out with such a unique idea and product that I feel like the interest has always been there and only growing as we grow as well. And I think just maintaining our product, making sure the consistency is there, just turning out a consistently good gin, vodka, other kinds of spirits. We like to play around and experiment, but just bringing people what they want at a high quality. That's what we do.
Well, that leads right into my next question, because Wayward has won numerous awards for its spirits. So can you share some of the accolades you're particularly proud of and what sets your spirits apart in the industry?
Yeah, so we've won gold or gold with distinction on many of our spirits at the Canadian Artisan Stills competition, which is held in Vancouver. But one of my favorite things to submit is any kind of small batch stuff that our head distiller, Laura, comes up with is usually just out of this world. It's not usually something we could replicate on a larger scale. It's usually like a 200 small bottle release, but she's like a mad scientist and has all these crazy creative ideas, and anything she touches just seems to turn to gold. She's just got such a knack for it. So we're going to be submitting a smaller batch release this year, and I'm excited to see how it does.
And what's next for Wayward Distillery, aside from that small batch release? Anything exciting we can look forward to coming out to market?
Well, actually, this year in December, we opened our doors 10 years ago. Hopefully, we're going to be releasing a couple small batch stuff, maybe even tease at possible whiskey in the future. We were limited initially because we were honey only, but over the last couple of years, we've kind of integrated some grain products into our making as well. Just because getting all the honey that we need to continue everything is getting more and more difficult. Again, it's been a rough couple of years on our friends the bees, and making it easier for them to give us the honey that we need and not, exploiting the resource is important to us. Different small batch stuff, still honey is a factor. I mean, we'll never lose that honey aspect to us. That's where the heart is, right? So, but yeah, small batch releases, a couple teasing ones, maybe a couple old favorites, coming back, that kind of thing. We just look to do things better and better if we can.
So for those who want to experience Wayward firsthand, can people visit the distillery? And when you did mention, actually, they can come see the bees. So aside from the bees, what else can visitors expect when they come by for a tour?
So we love to start our tours mostly by saying okay, heads up, working distillery. There will be hoses on the ground. There will be cords. Please watch your step. But I think it's a really authentic look at a small craft distillery. We didn't have a multi-million-dollar startup or anything like that. And just over the last decade, we've grown and done better and better. We went from being able to roller skate and have paint nights in the distillery to having to squish around tanks and make our way through that. So we're happy to show and share our experiences with anybody who comes in, and we welcome questions, and we just want people to find it as interesting as we distillery geeks do.
So for the rest of us in Canada who might not be able to get by for a visit, how can we get our hands on your drinks?
So our website is a great resource. We ship all over Canada, and because we were started by military people. My husband's military, Dave, our founder's military, Laura, our head distiller, is ex-military as well. We have friends and family all over the country, and they'd be pretty ticked at us if we didn't have a way to get them some of what we're making. So yeah, on the line is the best way to do it.
Well, I have to tell you are my favorite thing this year for my Christmas party with my friends. We have a favorite thing party every year, and you are my favorite thing. What? I will be giving out some of Wayward Distillery's beverages to friends because, man, oh man, I am sold. So I want everybody to find you. So just quickly, your website, please, and social channels.
WaywardDistillery.com. You can find us on Facebook, Wayward Distillery, and you can find us on Instagram at Wayward Distillery.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today, Sara.
Thank you for having me.
Introducing our biggest GMC Acadia ever. Offering bigger screens, bigger views, and even bigger journeys. Live your biggest life in the all-new GMC Acadia.
Discover Myself Le Parfum by YSL Beauty. The new, sensual, and warm intensity enhanced by spicy vanilla bourbon. A fragrance for a man born unapologetically himself. Myself, Yves Saint Laurent.
Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of beekeeping with Julia Common, a seasoned apiculturist with a career that spans decades. Julia's journey began as a summer job during her university days, which has evolved into a lifelong passion and career. From co-founding Hives for Humanity in Vancouver to her current work with Bees Actually, Julia has been a tireless advocate for bee health and education. We're also going to explore her collaboration with the Fairmont Waterfront and the crucial roles bees play in our ecosystem. Welcome to What She Said, Julia.
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me all the way from Toronto to Vancouver. It's great.
And you've had such a diverse and impactful career, Julia, in beekeeping. So can you tell us how you first got started in this field?
Well, I usually get started in really interesting things after being fired from a job or something like that. So I had been a dairy herds person, and my boss told me he thought it was time to try another aspect of agriculture. I was 21, and so I got a job out in Manitoba just because Cam J was a very generous man who hired me with no experience. So I went to Manitoba. I worked with all the grad students there. I was 21, and Cam gave me 2 of my own colonies. And on the weekend, he would teach me how to beekeep. And that is where I fell in love with bees.
And bees are so essential to our environment, but many people might not realize just how crucial they are. Can you explain the importance of healthy bee colonies and what role they play in our ecosystem?
Yes. Well, healthy bee colonies. When you have a healthy bee colony, that's a colony that is growing. It's a colony that has lots of babies. The nurse bees are caring for the babies, and you want to have a healthy next generation coming on. And it's the bees going out to pollinate. We rely on pollination in so many of our crops, but they pollinate because they are after the protein source, the pollen, and the carbohydrate source for their energy, so they can bring back food to their hive, to their nest, and then feed their babies. So when you have healthy babies, when you have a growing colony, you have highly, highly motivated bees to get out there into the environment and pollinate the crops, add to our biodiversity, and really keep things just ticking over for us and for everything, for the planet as well.
And there's been a lot in the news lately about how bee colonies were really struggling. Is this still the case, or are we turning things around when it comes to bee health and bee colony health?
It is incredibly difficult to keep bees healthy these years. In the old days, colonies just went on and on forever. You had a colony and it would get through the winter and you'd start up again in the spring. And now we can have our bee colonies die at any part of the year, really. We mostly focus on winter losses, but now colonies can die off during the growing season as well. And so we live in quite a toxic environment. In fact, the bees are almost like biomonitors for us. So it's very difficult to keep bees healthy. In the past, 20 years, people have understood that the bees are at risk, and all pollinators are at risk. But people thought, maybe I should start beekeeping. But no, the best thing to do is, try and plant food. Our bees, our native bees, they're losing their habitat. They're losing their food sources with the development. And these creatures are also having to survive in a more and more chemical infused, if you like, environment. And it's very hard on them. And when you have the honeybees, because they're managed, where we see, these are huge losses. And I mean huge losses. I lost 95% of my bees one season. This isn't uncommon right across Canada, across the world. It can go anywhere from 30% losses to like 85-95% losses. But, we are able to manage our bees and compensate for the losses. For the native pollinators, in many cases, we don't even know how they are doing. We just either watch them diminish in just seeing them around, or understand that, well, yes, if our honeybees are under pressure, so are the native species. It's quite complex, for sure.
You transitioned from your role at Hives for Humanity to focusing on bee health through Bees Actually. So what inspired the shift? Was it that the die-offs you were seeing of colonies that moved you to start Bees Actually?
Yes, I think, when my daughter and I started Hives for Humanity, I was coming into Hives for Humanity. Well, I was coming into the city to do this with her, and my focus was always the bees. that was my expertise, my area of expertise. And Sara, her area of expertise was working with the people. So once we established Hives to Humanity and saw the amazingly therapeutic nature of the honeybees in the city, I am not a city person. So I stayed and I was with Hives to Humanity whilst it was necessary at the beginning. And then she continues to run Hives to Humanity down in the city. And then I came out to the country where I used to live, and I moved back to the country to continue. It's rather a farmer's life. So that is why I'm in the country. I have always been wanting to be an advocate for the honeybees, but watching them suffer and get illnesses after doing their pollination work really made me feel that I owe these bees. I owe them something. So yeah, I'm going to speak up on their behalf, and I'm going to do my best to try and find ways to mitigate all the negative things that are in the environment.
Well, I know you have a little bit of a city connection left because I met you in the city at the Fairmont Waterfront, and there as part of their urban beekeeping efforts. Can you share how this collaboration came about, and how does it benefit both the bees and the community there?
I'm always happy to talk about the Fairmont Waterfront. I just love that place. It all happened because the Fairmont Waterfront, they were the first company, if you like, to recognize that what we were doing with the honeybees was more than beekeeping, that there was a social aspect to Hives to Humanity. And they supported us by giving us work, by giving us grants. They just supported us. And it was an amazing validation of what we were trying to do. And that's what started my relationship with them back in 2011. And at the time, they had bees already on the roof, but gave us the opportunity to manage the bees. And then I was always the chief beekeeper there, managing the bees and growing a relationship with actually everybody at the waterfront. You know, I come in the underbelly of the hotel and I go through deliveries and linen and house staff. And then I come to the front of house and I talk to the guests. I just love it. And everyone is super connected to those bees. And the apiary is a beautiful apiary to work in. And we also have a pollinator garden, and that the whole program has grown up over the pollinator garden. So we do houses for mason bees, but we also have all sorts of delicious food for the bees to eat and a place for them to live, undisturbed parts of the garden. So it's just a really wonderful experience, and I love coming into the city very early in the morning. And when I'm working with the bees, guests always come by, and I have these amazing conversations. And so for me, it's an incredible opportunity to talk to people worldwide about what they feel about the bees, or ideas about the bees, or things they can plant. So we have very interesting conversations, and it always stimulates me to keep going.
Well, I have to tell you, after my experience, I mean, it was pretty profound, really, to be able to actually touch thousands of bees, and they're so gentle and wonderful. You make me want to run away and start my own apiary, but that's probably not practical. So what should most people do? What is the best way for us to support the bees? Should people have beehives in their backyard, or is it planting to help them pollinate and continue to build their hives?
The way we help the bees is the way we help ourselves as well, right? Just make our planet a healthier place, make our local environment a healthier place. And what does that mean? I mean, native bees need undisturbed soil, or an undisturbed part in your garden where they can nest, because most of them are under the ground nesters. And native bees can't fly very far. They need food right near where they live. So the best thing you can do if you have a garden is to plant pollinator-friendly plants or native plants. And these will be good for the native pollinators as well as the honeybees. And also just, I guess, be aware that even the tiny things we do make a difference. I mean, I work with some seniors who have little balconies, and one of these senior members put a lavender plant out, and every day she has a bumblebee who comes to visit her, and she feels completely connected to that bumblebee and nature through this very simple, one plant on one balcony. It's extraordinary how that it's that one little positive action leads to something positive happening.
It really is great. Julia, if people are visiting the Fairmont Waterfront, where can they go to see the bees, and can they connect with you there?
At the waterfront, they have actually a very good program. They have bee ambassadors, and so I go in and do sort of a lunch and learn with them every year. So every day they do a tour. We have an observation hive there at the Fairmont, and so they do a tour daily during the summer where you go up with a group of people, and then you go down. And I think they used to do tasting ice creams, and then they did tasting other things, but they do things in ARC, the restaurant, that relate to the bees. And also you can just go and look at the observation hive on your own, of course. And then, yes, I mean, I often connect with guests. Sometimes I meet with them who have a special interest who want to do a private tour or something like that. Often we can manage that as well. So that is how they engage. And the bees, there's two parts on the hotel. There's a pollinator garden, which is it's an oasis of, well, you've been in it. It's apples and fruits and vegetables and beautiful plants. It's just a little tiny bit of peace in the middle of the city. And we've been having these pollinator dinners, which I'm sure you found magical. I find them magical every time I partake. And it's, everyone takes this is the thing about honeybees. People take great joy in watching the honeybee colony thrive or watching anything thrive under their care. So you feed them and they in turn feed you spiritually, really, in a way.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. One of the most wonderful experiences I think I've ever had is experiencing that night with the bees. So Julia, I can't thank you enough for joining me today and sharing a little bit more about what you do with everybody. And I hope we'll connect again soon.
Oh, well, my pleasure. And me too. I hope we connect. And often, well, we will. We probably will. Here, there, everywhere, we will connect.
Absolutely. Thank you, Julia.
Okay. Take care now.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injuries and additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
Starbucks Iced Apple Crisp Oat Milk Shaken Espresso. Made with blonde espresso, creamy oat milk, and spiced apple flavors. It's an icy crisp sip you can enjoy all autumn long. Order ahead on the Starbucks app.
I had the pleasure of dining at Salmon and Bannock in Vancouver this week, and while the food was absolutely incredible, it was the story behind the restaurant and its owner, Inez Cook, that truly captivated me. Inez's journey from being part of Canada's 60s Scoop to becoming a successful restaurateur is nothing short of inspiring. Today, I'm thrilled to share her story with you as we explore her path, the mission behind Salmon and Bannock, and the importance of preserving and sharing Indigenous cuisine and culture. Welcome to What She Said, Inez.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Your story is so powerful. And this is one of the things I love about travel is that you never know when you're going to run into somebody like yourself. I mean, I went expecting an amazing meal, but did not expect to meet you. So can you share a little bit about your background and the journey that led you to open Salmon and Bannock?
Like you said, I'm part of the 60s Scoop. So I really felt like I grew up without culture my whole life. And I felt like I was yearning for culture. And I grew up in Vancouver, and I felt like the mountains were stagnating me and I needed to jump higher. So my studies was actually radio broadcasting. And then I moved to Toronto. I think I must have been 19. And I went to Much Music. I wanted to work there. And I didn't get hired because I didn't have any experience. So I lived in an expensive city of Toronto with 3 jobs in restaurants just to pay the bills. Miserable. Couldn't come home a failure, thought about a solution, moved to Montreal, study French, and then come back to Vancouver, break down the competition barrier. That was my plan. And then when I was in Montreal, I finished my French courses and I'd seen a tiny little ad saying flight attendants urgently needed. And I was like, oh my God, I need to go and meet the world and the world needs to meet me and I need to find culture. So I started a flying career in aviation, and that brought me to meet the entire world. I mean, I was based in Saudi Arabia, I was based in India, I was based in Africa, England, all over the world. And my first job was at Boston Pizza when I was 13, and I knew that one day I was going to have a restaurant. So when I was living in Saudi Arabia, I told all my friends that I was going to open up a restaurant called Chez Moi, and I wanted to take people on a journey through food. And as I continued traveling the world and meeting different cultures, I thought it'd be really cool to take people on a journey through food. Like, feel like you've traveled, but you haven't. And I thought it would be such a cool idea, and I hadn't seen it being done. And I know I've got, olive complexion, and I look like I'm Latin, and I look like I'm Arabic, and I look like, so I kind of fit into everybody's culture, but it still wasn't my culture. And I was still yearning and yearning for culture. And I was meeting all these amazing cultures, but I still felt like I had no culture. And I moved back to Vancouver in 97, and I started my Air Canada career out of Vancouver. I did 25 years here. And during that time, I got married, and my ex-husband is Tunisian, and we discussed opening up a Tunisian restaurant. I learned how to make some wicked Tunisian dishes. Then we got divorced. So I was like, okay, that plan's done. Not able to open up a Tunisian restaurant that's not authentic. I went to Kelowna during the wine fest to drink wine with one of my besties and to forget about my divorce. And then as she was taking me to the airport, I'd seen a huge sign and it said, "Don't panic, we have Bannock." And I said, "Oh my God, you have to stop the car right now." So I hadn't had Bannock since I was a child. And, being adopted and being Indigenous, I was never proud of being Native. I didn't see any role models around. I didn't see anything. And I just felt a lot of racism about it. And I just didn't want to identify as that. And I just chose not to. And because I look like a chameleon of cultures, everyone kind of accepted me for whoever. So went to Kelowna, tried Kukuli Cafe, freaked out, came back to Vancouver, inspired, talked to one of my dear friends. And I said, "Oh my God, the Olympics are coming. The whole world is coming here. There's no longer an Indigenous restaurant, and we need one. Like when I travel, I want to have food from the land." I was saying when I go to Paris, don't bring me to a restaurant that has an English menu. Absolutely not. I want to eat with the locals, you know?
Right.
So he's like, "Oh my God, you're giving me shivers. I'll work day and night. Let's make it happen." Like, it's a great idea, but bad timing. I'm going through my divorce. I have no money. Forget it. And then like literally a few weeks later, this lady that we knew called me and she's like, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do. I have this empty restaurant. I need somebody to sublet it. I just wish somebody would take it off my hands. But now that the Olympics are coming, like the whole city hall is shut down. Can't do anything, but I don't know what to do." And I felt like I was kicked in the stomach. And I was like, I have an idea. And so literally the following weekend, we went back to Kelowna and asked Sharon and Darren from Kukuli Cafe if they'd be interested in partnering up. And at first they said maybe, and then they said no, they'd be overextended. They were still new and it was still too much of a distance. So they said not at that time. It wouldn't work out. But they would give me their blessings and help me whatever I needed. And so I wanted it to be authentic, but I didn't feel like I was Indigenous. And I didn't want to be like a fraud. So I went to the local nations and I asked around and I hired a mother-daughter team. And we opened like literally February 15th, 2010, Salmon and Bannock Bistro, second day of the Olympics, the Winter Olympics. And we opened with about 5 items on the menu, very, very simple. And, some salmon burger, Bannock taco, soup and Bannock, just simple, simple things. And we had no customers, zero. And nobody was allowed to stop on Broadway during the Olympics. And nobody knew me. So the culinary world in Vancouver is pretty, like, everybody knows something about restaurants opening up and who's behind it and where they come from and that kind of thing. Nobody knew me because I was in aviation and I'd been living all over the world for several years. So nobody knew me. And the Indigenous world didn't know me either because I'm adopted. So it was all over the media that this new Hulk person had opened up this restaurant. So then they sent in somebody else. And this lady was this firing squad of questions, asking me all these questions. And I was really taken aback, thinking like I was under attack, kind of what I felt like. And I said to this lady, I don't know much, but I only know my biological mother's first name. That's all I got. So I gave her the name and I went away and I got her tea. And I came back and she was on the phone. She hung up the phone. She stood up with her arms extended. She said, "Let me be the first to welcome you home. We're family." And I literally fell to the floor, sobbing.
I'm in tears again. I heard this story a couple of days ago, and I have tears in my eyes again. This is so powerful. Wow.
I can finally share my story without crying. And when I used to share my story, I used to be crying so hard I couldn't get the words out. And I realized how important it is to share your story and how it can help somebody hearing your story, even if it helps one person. And if you're crying that hard, nobody can hear the story. So I wrote 2 children's books about my story. And, sharing it with everyone has been really, really healing for me. So after I met her, I got about 50 Facebook requests right away from family. And then an uncle came to visit me at the restaurant, and he promised my late biological mother that he would find me. And he did a blessing for the restaurant. And he said, "Your traditional name is going to be Snitsmana." And that was my biological grandmother's traditional name. So I said, "Okay, thank you." But I mean, honestly, I felt the same way as if somebody told you your name was going to be Gladiola. You'd be like, "Okay, thank you." But it didn't have any meaning to me and I didn't know what it meant. And so shortly after that, my uncle went back to Bella Coola and passed away. So then I got a phone call at the restaurant from the chief of my family. And he said, "Inez, we need to have a family meeting and you need to come to Bella Coola for the next family potlatch where you're going to get reintroduced to the community and you're going to receive your name. Uncle Donald said your name was going to be Snitsmana. So you're going to receive that." And so 11/11/11, I went to Bella Coola for the first time and I met 500 relatives over a 3-day potlatch where I received my traditional name and my regalia, my button blanket with my family crest on it. It was the first time in my life that I felt good in my own skin. It was the day that my life changed. And Salmon and Bannock is now like showcasing my heritage with pride. And I make jokes saying I'm a born again native because now I'm so proud and right in everybody's face.
What does it mean to you to see people embracing Indigenous cuisine now? Your restaurant obviously has been around since the Olympics. We're in Vancouver. You've been around a long time. So what impact does this have on you?
I've come full circle now and I'm taking people on the journey, but it's my personal journey through food. And, I make jokes that even if I'm not at the bistro, you can feel me in the walls. And it was really interesting during lockdown when the borders were shut and Canadians were doing Canadian holidays. And so many Canadians were seeking us out. And that was really special. We hear about truth and reconciliation all the time, but Canadians, most of them don't know what it means or how it applies to them or how to apply it to their life. And seeking out Indigenous businesses and supporting Indigenous businesses and allowing Indigenous businesses to flourish and celebrating them is actions. And that's towards reconciliation. And it brings me so much joy when people seek us out to celebrate and to have our food. And, food is medicine, food is healing. All cultures, food brings people together and we're no different.
The 60 Scoop is a really dark chapter in Canadian history that many people are still really unaware of. So how do you balance sharing your personal story with running a successful business?
I didn't know about the 60 Scoop either when I was younger. I mean, that was a very well kept secret. I mean, I'm actually part of it and I didn't know. And my parents that adopted me didn't know. They didn't know the master plan. They just knew this girl needed to be adopted. That was all they knew. I think my journey through healing and understanding for me is helping my business thrive. My whole team at my bistro on Broadway is Indigenous. And a lot of them, have learned more about their indigeneity working with us and with an Indigenous team. And I think it kind of just goes hand in hand. I mean, when you think about it, there's over 600 nations in Canada. And when you understand that 100% of all Indigenous people in Canada have been personally affected by the residential schools in one way or another, 100%. So when you actually take a moment to think about that and think about, it's not 17%, it's not 42%, it's 100%. And I'm no different. I'm 60 Scoop, and that is a direct result of the residential schools. So now when you meet Indigenous people in Canada, you know already that they've been personally affected by this. So I think it helps open up Canadian minds, and having an Indigenous restaurant where people can come and try the cuisine. A lot of times people have no idea what Indigenous cuisine is because you wouldn't have it unless you're invited into somebody's home.
If people are interested in going, and I hope everybody does if they're in Vancouver, what dishes to you are special or significant in Indigenous culture that are routinely on the menu?
We're trying to celebrate as many of the different Indigenous cuisines from across the country as possible. But of course, where our location is, we have the ocean in the backyard. So that's always a bonus. So of course, our salmon is always wild and all of our meat is free range organic. And so, we have our slow braised bison pot roast. That's definitely a staple. And then one of my personal favorites is the sable fish. I love it. It's like a buttery, yummy fish. And salmon, you can't go wrong. And we prepare it so many different ways at the restaurant. We celebrate the Haudenosaunee, polenta, and we celebrate the Anishinaabe wild rice. And right now we have a special featured drink celebrating our sopalala berries. And so it's really fun bringing traditional ingredients and serving it with a modern palate and a modern viewpoint.
Absolutely. And I can attest to that sable fish. It was phenomenal. And so was the Indigenous wine that we had that evening. So good. And as I want people to be able to find you and obviously go to Salmon and Bannock, but perhaps learn some more about you and run into you hopefully in the restaurant. So how can they do that?
So www.salmonandbannock.net is the website. We also have Salmon and Bannock on the fly at YVR International Departures after the duty free. And that's the first Indigenous restaurant at any airport in North America. And my books, The 60 Scoop, are available on Amazon. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on everything. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find.
And as I can't thank you enough for joining me today. It was a delight.
Thanks so much for having me. It was great meeting you.
If today's podcast resonated with you, spread the word and share the inspiration. Don't forget to hit subscribe on What She Said across your favorite podcast platforms. Crave more? Join my vibrant community by signing up for my newsletter at whatshesaidtalk.com, and let's get social on Facebook, Instagram, and X at What She Said Talk. Dive into my world a little deeper on TikTok and Threads at Candace Said. And for those who love the airwaves, catch me weekly on 105.9 The Region, Blast the Radio, and 107.7 Pulse FM. Until next time, keep making waves and remember, your voice matters.
Okay, now for the lightning round.
I'm so good at lightning rounds. That's from Friends. It's my favorite show.
20 seconds on the clock starts now. Who is the captain of the USS Enterprise?
Oh, crap. Is it, Captain Stubing? No, Morgan? Crunch?
Next question. Which superhero is Tony Stark?
Stark. Did Game of Thrones have superheroes? I only watched 2 episodes.
What planet were Luke and Leia born on?
Planet Fitness?
Oh, time's up. Sorry. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hey everybody, Mandy Kaplan here. Please check out my podcast, Make Me a Nerd, where each week an incredible guest tries to baptize this mainstream mom into the world of sci-fi, fantasy, and all things nerdy. Available wherever you podcast.
That's our show, folks.
Wait, I just thought of it. Padme Amidala gave birth to her twins Luke and Leia on Polis Massa. No, that's dumb. Is it Planet Hollywood?
Come on, let's go to the Blue Hotel. I wanna live at the Blue Hotel.
The podcast that goes everywhere the imagination dares. It's for the open-minded, the pleasure seeker. It's Jeff Woods with the new podcast about relationships and sexuality, theme-based with special guests, the Blue Hotel Hotline, and every episode climaxes with an adult bedtime story. Get a room and listen in at the Blue Hotel. Begins Friday, September 23rd.
Another Sound Off Media Company podcast.